Love is not primarily a relationship to a specific person. It is an attitude, an orientation of character, which determines the relatedness of a person to the world as a whole. They told you love was beautiful, that love would save you, complete you, rescue you from loneliness. But what if I told you it's all a lie? You're not falling in love, you're being sold an illusion. An illusion designed to keep you addicted, obedient, and emotionally dependent. They package love like a product, swipe left, swipe right. Like buying a pair of shoes, you pick someone based on traits, looks, status, compatibility. But when did love become a shopping cart? When did we start mistaking possession for passion? Here's the painful truth. Most people don't want to be loved. They want to be needed, admired, worshipped. And most people don't know how to love. They only know how to attach desperately, manipulatively to anyone who fills their emotional void. You're not crazy for feeling drained by modern love. You're just stuck in a system designed to use you emotionally, then discard you when you're no longer convenient. And the most dangerous part, you probably think this is normal. Erich Fromm didn't just see this, he predicted it. And in that quote, he gave us the escape hatch. Love is not a person. It's an orientation of character. Until you fix your orientation, you will continue to be manipulated without even knowing it. Let's decode this illusion and free you from it. Erich Fromm wasn't just defining love, he was exposing its misuse. Because here's what happens when we forget that truth. Love becomes a weapon, a tool for control, a manipulation game dressed in sweet words, good intentions, and emotional dependency. We think love is something we get from someone, so we chase people, we mold ourselves, we perform, we become what they want, not because it's love, but because we fear being alone. We trade authenticity for attachment. And this is where manipulation begins. When you forget that love is an attitude of character, not a transaction, you become vulnerable to anyone who pretends to offer love, but is really selling validation, comfort, or control. Erich Fromm knew most people aren't in relationships, they're in silent power struggles. We crave love, but what we really seek is a sense of belonging we never gave ourselves. And manipulators feed off that hunger. They give you just enough attention to keep you hooked, just enough affection to confuse you, and just enough distance to keep you chasing. But if love is an orientation of character, as Fromm says, then no one can manipulate you unless you've abandoned your own character. That's the war happening behind most romances today. And it's time we learned to see it. Let's break it down step by step, starting with the trap we're all living in. Welcome to Erich Fromm, where we don't sugarcoat human nature, we unravel it, expose it, and if necessary, burn it down to rebuild it. Today's topic cuts deeper than most people are willing to go. The dark psychology of love, how you're being manipulated without knowing it. Yes, manipulated, not always by others, sometimes by ourselves. In a world drowning in dating apps, Instagram captions, and performative romance, real love has been replaced by performance, possession, and fear. We're told that love should just happen, that if it's real, it's effortless. But Fromm says otherwise. Real love is work, real love is character. So what happens when we skip the inner work? We fall into traps, psychological, emotional, even spiritual, where we confuse attachment for love, validation for connection, and manipulation for passion. This isn't just about toxic relationships. It's about why we keep repeating the same patterns, why we get hooked on the unavailable, why silence feels like punishment, and why some people weaponize love to control you. Number one, manufactured love. How society programs you to be emotionally dependent. They don't teach you how to love, they teach you how to need. From childhood, you're fed a story that one day someone will complete you, that love will arrive like a lightning bolt, sudden, explosive, and unquestionable. It's in the movies, the songs. Even your parents' hopes, find the one, fall, get saved. But Erich Fromm would tell you that's not love, that's emotional conditioning. You've been programmed to be incomplete on purpose, because an incomplete person is easy to sell to, easy to manipulate, easy to control. Erich Fromm wrote in The Art of Loving, "Modern man's happiness consists in fun. He is constantly seeking new kicks and distractions. Love is reduced to a fleeting experience. So what do? We start to shop for love, swipe, like, match. Treat people like products. We fall in love with the idea of being loved more than the actual person. And that makes us vulnerable, because when you believe love is something someone gives you, you'll do anything not to lose it, even if it means losing yourself. You'll tolerate silence, excuse disrespect, beg for crumbs, and call it just how love is. But it's not, it's a setup. Society has trained you to outsource your self-worth. So love becomes desperation, desperation becomes currency, and manipulators cash in. Erich Fromm warned us, if a person loves only one other person and is indifferent to the rest of his fellow men, his love is not love, but a symbiotic attachment or an enlarged egotism. Real love isn't selective affection, it's a way of being. But if you've never been taught that, you become easy prey for those who use love as a leash. They don't want your soul, they want your obedience. They know you're starving for connection, so they feed you just enough to keep you addicted. You chase that next text, that apology, that maybe this time it'll be different. But the system was never built to fulfill you. It was built to keep you seeking, because a seeker is easily manipulated. The good news? Once you see it, you can stop playing the game. Now that we understand the setup, let's examine the next move in the manipulation playbook. The savior complex and why you're magnetically drawn to emotional manipulators. Number 2, the savior complex, why you're attracted to emotional manipulators. They enter your life like a miracle, charming, confident, mysterious. They say all the right things. They seem to see you in a way no one else ever has. It feels like fate, but it's not. It's strategy. Welcome to the savior complex, the most seductive manipulation of all. Erich Fromm believed most people unconsciously crave to surrender their freedom. Yes, surrender it. Why? Because freedom is terrifying when you don't know who you are. Most people are not even aware of their need to conform. Their autonomy is an illusion. Erich Fromm escaped from freedom. So what do we do when we feel small, broken, insecure? We look for someone stronger to lead us, to validate us, to save us. That's when the manipulator appears, not by accident, but because they sense that need. They become the rescuer, the guide, the different one. And you become the project, not the partner. This dynamic isn't love, it's dependency dressed as destiny. Erich Fromm explained that immature love is possessive. It feeds on control. And manipulators will offer just enough affection to make you feel safe, but only if you play by their rules. You stop expressing needs, you apologize for your feelings, you confuse pain with passion, and you stay not because you're happy, but because you're afraid. Number 3, gaslighting as love, when control hides behind concern. It starts with a whisper, you're overthinking. I didn't mean it that way, you're too emotional, and just like that, your reality begins to blur. Welcome to gaslighting, the silent surgical weapon of manipulators. And the most dangerous thing about it, it often looks like love. Erich Fromm warned us, the essential element in love is to let a person be who they are, not to twist them into what we want them to be. But manipulators don't love the real you. They love the version they can control, so they chip away at your certainty, your instincts, your memory, your emotions, until you start questioning the very things you once knew to be true. They don't yell, they suggest. They don't restrict you, they worry. They don't insult, they just say you're being too sensitive. And because you want love, you interpret these cuts as care. But it's not care, it's corrosion. Erich Fromm called this pseudo-love, where domination hides beneath devotion, where concern becomes a leash, where guilt becomes the handcuff. You hear, I just want what's best for you. But what they mean is, I want what's most convenient for me. They'll convince you your friends are toxic, that your dreams are unrealistic, that your emotional needs are too much. And the more they disguise this control as concern, the more you lean on them and lose yourself. That's the brilliance of gaslighting. It makes you think you're the problem, so you never question them. You shrink, you silence yourself, and you think it's love. But Erich Fromm reminds us, mature love is union under the condition of preserving one's integrity, one's individuality. If you have to become less of yourself to keep someone that is not love, that is psychological warfare wrapped in affection. And here's the darkest part. The more you're gaslit, the more grateful you feel to be loved at all. Because by now, you've been emotionally weakened. You're not just hurt, you're starved. And manipulators know exactly what to do next. Withhold, reward, repeat. Let's talk about the addiction cycle number 4, emotional starvation. The addictive cycle of withholding and reward. Imagine this. One moment, they're flooding you with affection, late-night calls, sweet texts. You feel like the center of their world. Then silence, coldness, distance. You replay every conversation in your head, wondering what you did wrong. You crave that warmth again. You chase it. You become addicted to the relief, not the love itself. This is emotional starvation. And it's the oldest trick in the manipulator's playbook. Erich Fromm understood this deeply. He wrote in Man for Himself, "The immature love says, I love you because I need you." Mature love says, I need you because I love you. But manipulators reverse this. They create the need by giving and then taking away. It's not connection, it's conditioning. They withhold affection until you become anxious, unsure, and eager to please. Then right when you're about to walk away, they reward you, a compliment, a warm glance, a tiny apology, just enough to pull you back in. And every time this cycle repeats, the emotional stakes get higher. You're no longer thinking clearly. You're surviving like someone stranded in a desert, grateful for a few drops of water from the very person who dehydrated you. Erich Fromm explained that immature love is often mistaken for intensity, but intensity without security is manipulation. It doesn't feed your soul, it hijacks your nervous system. You end up addicted to chaos, and you call it chemistry. And here's the brutal truth. Manipulators know this. They understand human psychology well. They know that inconsistency builds obsession. The less predictable their love, the more desperately you seek it. And once they've trained you this way, they don't even need to manipulate you directly anymore. You start doing it to yourself. You doubt your worth. You rewrite their abuse as a rough patch. You ignore your gut and silence your voice, because now you're emotionally starving, and they're the only person who can feed you. But Erich Fromm says love should liberate, not enslave. It should nourish, not deplete. It should strengthen, not weaken. So how do we escape the hunger? By learning what love truly is, by becoming emotionally whole, so manipulation has no place to enter. Now let's break the cycle. Let's talk about freedom. Number 5, liberation through real love, escaping the grips of manipulation. This is where the game ends. No more chasing, no more doubting, no more shrinking into a version of yourself just to feel wanted. Because real love doesn't manipulate, it liberates. Erich Fromm was clear in The Art of Loving. Love is the active concern for the life and the growth of that which we love. Not concern as control, not growth as obedience, but concern that nourishes and growth that frees. Manipulators trade in fear. They keep you afraid of being alone, afraid of being unloved, afraid of losing them. But freedom begins the moment you realize it is better to be alone than imprisoned in a love that costs you your self-respect. Real love doesn't ask you to prove your worth. It doesn't confuse you. It doesn't vanish, punish, twist, or deny you your voice. Real love is clarity. It's safety. It's freedom. But here's the hard truth. You can't receive real love until you become someone who no longer feeds on false ones. That means unlearning the fantasy that love will fix you, that someone will come along and fill the void, that being chosen by another finally makes you enough. Erich Fromm would argue the foundation of all love is self-love, not narcissism, not ego, but a deep, committed relationship with yourself. Self-love is not selfishness. It means to care about one's own growth and to take responsibility for oneself. Because when you don't know yourself, your love becomes a desperate signal sent into the dark, begging someone to answer. But when you do know yourself, your love becomes a steady flame, a light no one can dim or distort. You become harder to manipulate when your identity is not up for negotiation. When you realize you were never meant to earn love like a prize, you were meant to live it as a truth. Erich Fromm says, love is not a passive experience, it's an art. And art requires discipline, courage, and authenticity. That's the power manipulators fear the most, a person who no longer needs their approval to feel complete. Because when love is no longer a drug, it becomes a choice. And that choice can only exist in freedom. So step out of the illusion. Step into clarity, stop chasing shadows, and start creating light. Because liberation is not just possible, it's the only real proof that love was ever there. And now that you see it, you can never unsee it. 6, the transformation arc, from puppet to person. Now imagine this. You wake up one morning and your chest doesn't feel tight. You don't immediately wonder what mood they'll be in. You're not scanning every message for hidden disappointment. You're just calm, still, free. This is what happens when the fog lifts, when you stop mistaking manipulation for love and finally see yourself again. It doesn't come all at once, it comes in whispers. The first time you say no and don't explain yourself. The first time you don't text back just to avoid guilt. The first time you feel lonely and don't run back to chaos for comfort. Erich Fromm believed that to truly love, one must be fully human, courageous, independent, awake. To have faith requires courage, the ability to take a risk, the readiness even to accept pain and disappointment. Because leaving manipulation isn't just about exiting a relationship, it's about exiting a version of yourself that was built on fear, fear of being abandoned, fear of not being enough, fear of not being chosen. But once you walk away, once you begin to love without needing to control or be controlled, you begin to feel something you may not have felt in years, peace. The kind of peace that doesn't come from someone else's approval, the kind that grows from within, from knowing that you are worthy, not because someone finally said so, but because you finally did. Your boundaries get stronger, your self-respect rises. Your emotional hunger starts to fade, and in its place, a quiet power, a knowing, a center that cannot be shaken. You start to see the patterns in others, in yourself, but instead of being pulled back into the dance, you pause, you breathe, you choose differently. And that choice, that new identity, is the revolution Fromm speaks of. This is not the end, it's the beginning of love that does not cage you, but lifts you, of a life where manipulation no longer lives, because now you do.